Hey guys, thanks for joining us. We're here for another happy hour at the Wedding Pros. Today we're with Matt and Megan from Shutterforce and Matt Blazing Photography. So I'll let them introduce themselves and we'll get started. Go ahead, Megan, since you're first up.
Sorry, struggling with the mute button. Hi everybody, I'm Megan Brogan. My husband James and I run Shutterforce Photography. This is my cat Sydney, who's crashing our Zoom meeting today.
Cool. And Matt?
Hi, my name is Matt Blazing. Amy is not with me right now because she is working, but this is my cat, Michi, right there. There's another bed, so that's it.
We need some dog representation. What is this with all these cat people? Where's the dog? Dogs.
I sleep in the next room with my wife while she's working. Not here with me right now.
All right. Hey, well, what we want to talk about today is how to differentiate between photographers and how to make sure, because having somebody show up with their camera and just because your Uncle Fred takes great shots and his Yosemite trip was the bomb, that doesn't mean that he can shoot your wedding well. I always like to caution people on using somebody that's family or friends because there are no do-overs for this event. And the photographers, the professionals, know how to get good shots. And the number one regret of couples afterwards is that if they've used somebody that they weren't sure of, that their photos, well, they suck. So we want to make sure that y'all have good photographies and no regret, and good photographers have no regrets after. So that's why I wanted to meet with these two and just talk about how to pick the right photographer and how to know whether they're going to be able to get the shots you want. So Megan, what do you wish couples knew before they came and talked to you? You're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I thought I had it figured out. There we go. So I love your point about, asking a family friend to photograph your wedding. And I think one thing that that a lot of people don't realize is how much you're going to want that person to be a part of your wedding day. And a professional photographer is absolutely there for all of the moments, but they experience it a little differently behind the camera. And if you've got a loved one who has a great photography skill or eye, or but you still want to experience the day with them. And a good photographer is going to need to be able to separate themselves to dedicate to the job of the day. So let your family be family. Let them be part of the day. Hire a professional who's accredited, who has done the work, has the experience, has been through all of the craziness that every single wedding can present, because every wedding is different and you learn something as a photographer in every single wedding. So you take all of that experience with you to be able to navigate whatever, the new wedding day challenges come up. And I think that a lot of couples, what we want them to know is that when the photographer they hire, we want them to feel a connection with their art, with their personalities. I feel like a lot of couples think that photographers just come, take a bunch of shots of the day and leave. But it's a relationship. It's a very strong relationship that gets set up with when you go into business with a couple for their wedding. So much about taking genuine photos is about building a relationship and getting to know them so that they feel comfortable in front of the camera. There's a ton of trust that gets built up so that on your wedding day that you don't have to worry about your photographers. They're going to be early. They're going to be prompt. They're going to be responsible. They're going to get all the things that you want. They're going to be fun. It's really important that your personalities match because no vendor follows you around as extensively as a photographer on your wedding day. So you want to be comfortable with the people that you hire. And that's true, we think, for all vendors too. You really want to build trust so that you're not stressed on your wedding day. It's the best thing you can do to try to not be stressed. And everyone's stressed on a wedding day, but the more things you can check off that list, the better. And the photographers, that's something that James and I feel very passionate about, is that we don't want your photographers to ever be a stress on your day. And if you're worried about Uncle Jim, whether he's had too many drinks at the bar or, or not necessarily had all that wedding experience to know what the important moments are to capture. I think those are some of the skills that, a professional photographer can really add to your day.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I know that stress shows in photographs and you can see it, even though you might think, no, I'm fine. It shows. And being worried about where is he, or just having somebody that grates on you. Man, that'd be a horrible way to be going through your wedding. Okay, so Matt, what do you wish people knew when they came to see you?
Um, this is actually kind of a hard question to answer because my wife and I, we know Megan and James very well, and so our styles are very similar. And so she covered almost everything that I was going to say. You know, really the only thing that I would be able to say is that, when you do have an Uncle Bob, that has a camera that's, going to be showing up, is just to, just kind of be gracious because, that's a person that wants to be there and, to capture the moments also. But what I agree with the most is being able to get to know the clients on a personal level, which is, again for Amy and me, which is why we meet with the couples, we get to know them on a personal level because every wedding is not the same. It's not all cookie cutter, even if the structure of the day is the same. They all have very personal touches to their day, and so it's just really making sure that you get to know them on a very personal level and that you can capture everything about the day that you can. So if there's like a little picture of a family member that's passed away, or if there's like a friend from college that might be there, or whatever, it's just making sure that you represent the day the best way that you can, and just making sure that you can have that day be represented in the way that they saw it. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense. So,
So
so I'll let you go first this time. So, what makes your photography different? What's if is a photograph?
what makes my photography different?
Yeah. So how? I mean, is a picture of a bride the same for every photographer?
Not necessarily, no. There's different lighting styles that some photographers might prefer. There's different, backgrounds, or it's kind of hard for me to explain personally. But what makes our photography different is that I think that we really try to get to know the couple as people, so that way we can integrate those small touches, whether it's their pets, whether it's if they're Disney people, or if they have something personal about them that we want to throw into their photo shoot. We try to make it as much about them as possible. So um, I I feel like all photographers can be different, and for us, what makes us different is that we try to put as many of those individual elements of the couple as possible into their photo shoots, whether it's the location, whether it's if they bring any props with them, etc. So that's really about the best way that I can answer that.
Okay. So along with that, then it's that relationship you build before that carries over into the day. Is that
Right.
what you're saying? Yeah. So what about you, Megan? Is that so? How is yours different? And what does this mean that the people should look at the styles, look at your other photos? In
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into finding the right photographer for you. And it is, it's kind of a little bit of a matchmaking process as well, because you certainly want to gravitate toward the style of the photographer you're interested in. You want to be able to see that they're skilled in photography. If there's something about an Instagram feed of a photographer that you see that it doesn't do anything for you, doesn't make you feel a certain way, then that's not the photographer you want to contact. I mean, that's for a lot of our clients, that's kind of one of the first things they see is our work. But the reason that we find that that clients will book a photographer is the connection they feel once they actually get the opportunity to interact, and be able to get that, a sense of the style, but the personality too, because I mean, photography is an art. So you're hiring an artist to come help photograph your day in the way that they see it. But a real talent of a photographer, which is something I think all of us are working on as photographers all the time, is to be able to create art that makes you feel the way you felt when you were experiencing that moment. So, anybody can take a picture of a bride in a dress. Absolutely. With a cell phone. But the way that photo makes you feel is what a professional photographer can really do. I mean, that is the difference between a photo, is the way that it makes you feel as a piece of art. So it's documenting your day, yes, but we want you to be able to feel how beautiful you felt in that dress, as opposed to just how good the dress looked. You know, it's there's something that kind of crosses beyond that plane of just what an image is and what an image feels. And I think that's what we're always striving for. It's always an ongoing process. But by, well, like what Matt said, you know, knowing your subjects is the way that you get into that connection. And then being able to bring your skills as a photographer, understanding light, knowing that, you know, the lighting conditions on a wedding photography or in wedding photography are always changing. You know, a landscape photographer gets to choose when they take the picture. They're on a tripod, they get to control so many things. On a wedding day, you don't get to control much. So you need to be able to have those skills to be able to, you know, roll with all the changes of the day, while also being able to provide that amazing service that makes your clients feel comfortable and not stressed. And then their photos are going to last. And that's one of my favorite things about photography, is that you know, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, you can look back at those images and remember what that day felt like. Even if you don't necessarily remember, you know, I look at photos of my cousin's wedding that I was a flower girl at when I was 7. I don't remember that experience that much, like maybe some crazy dance party stuff, but being able to see myself walking down the aisle and seeing my older relatives who have passed, and like it suddenly connects you to a moment in a way that other mediums can't do. And I think that's the difference really in photography, or what it means to me anyway.
Yeah, and that's so true. I always try to, when I'm talking to brides, I talk about, you know, nobody's going to remember whether you had chicken or fish at your reception. Nobody's going to remember a lot of those little details. But photography is the one thing that you take and you'll be looking at for years and years and years. And we were just going through some old photos with our kids, and they were looking at all these, and they were like, I remember this, or I didn't know we did this. And they were looking at some from our wedding. It was just one of those things that, wow, that is amazing that this happened, and we could share that with them. Hey, Guillermo, you're on here. This is Guillermo with Natural Touch.
Hey, Guillermo.
To introduce, so tell us about what you do and who you are.
Oh, I do wedding photography. I've done wedding photography for like ever, 25 years, but on my own for about 15. And I love it. I love it. It's awesome. It's
yeah. And you're
what's
with
that?
Touch.
Natural Touch photography. Yes.
That's it. Okay. Well, we were about ready to go on to another subject, because I know Guillermo, you had trouble coming on to getting onto the call. But we're going to talk about how you charge, not what you charge. I don't want to get into price. I don't want to talk about money, but just how you charge. We're trying to let couples know, because there are different ways that photographers will charge for different things, and just want to know what you're setting up, so that when couples come and talk to you, they'll know there are different ways that photographers can do things. How do you charge?
You know, for 15 years, I've had a small, medium, and large wedding. In New Mexico, most of them are either small or medium, or at least the ones that I shoot, and most of them are medium size weddings, 175 people, 5 couples in the wedding party, and you know, usually a house, a church, and a venue for a reception. And so I just charge accordingly, and I always include the ownership of all the images. I make it simple for them. You know, I don't like to separate things and price things differently. I include everything. I include an album. I include the ownership of the photos. I edit all of them, make them prettier than they come out of the camera if I can. And I stopped counting time, you know, because most weddings are 6 hours, you know. So I am there. If I'm there 7 or 7.5 hours, I'm there 7.5 hours. If I'm there 5, I'm there 5. So I don't, you know, I don't go yank on the bride's veil at 7 o'clock at night and get more money from her. I'm just there, you know. I eat another slice of cake and stay. But you know, just make it simple. Make it simple, especially now that people are stressed out. They don't want too many rules, too many, you know, too much stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You
I
charge
love it.
price based on the size of the wedding, or on
Yep.
not how long, but what are your qualifications as to what you charge?
Well, the size of the wedding usually determines how difficult it is. You know, if it's a tiny little wedding at the Inn of Paradise, that's going to be 4 to 5 hours. If it's a wedding with 200 people and 5 couples in the wedding party, that's going to be somewhere between 6 and 7. And if it's one of those gigantic weddings at Sandia or someplace like that, they're going to be maybe up to 8. You know, I show up about an hour and a half um, before their ceremony, when all the emotional stuff is happening, you know, the crying and the hugging and all that stuff. I used to do it earlier, and I just sat there not doing much. So right there is when the emotion starts. So we start about an hour and a half early, and we stay probably 2 to 3 hours at the reception, and we do everything in between. So usually like a church and a second location, or you know, so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One question, just kind of get you caught up, just real briefly. What makes your, what do you wish couples knew before they came to talk to you? And why should they not use Uncle Fred to shoot the photos?
Oh, well, they should never use Uncle Fred for sure, because Uncle Fred is going to be ruining Thanksgiving if he takes the pictures, whether they're good or not. Somebody's not going to like them, and it's not going to be a good thing. Plus, he is a guy that, and I've seen it a million times, is a guy that goes and has nothing better to do than to shop for cameras. He thinks, you know, he goes and buys killer cameras and lenses, and he shows up at the wedding. Everybody knows that Uncle Fred is so awesome, or my friend from college, or my best friend that is a great photographer. They're not really prepared for the on-the-spot decisions that you have to make, and the light changes from, you know, say if you're shooting at the Hotel Albuquerque, you're in that getting ready room in the back, and you're into the chapel, and you're outside. There's completely different lighting and situations and things that you have to do in seconds. They're not going to be able to do that. They're going to take snapshots of things that everybody saw, everybody took with their phone. They're not going to take photos of things that they didn't see, things with the bride and groom. Basically, my job is to remind them of what happened at their wedding, because they're not going to have a clue the next day because of the adrenaline rush. So my job is to show them, here's what happened, and to capture that in great exposures and nicely composed photos, and for them to go, oh, my grandma was crying when I was walking up the aisle, and, you know, my mom touched my hand when I said something, or whatever, instead of just shooting for the sake of shooting, which gets you nothing, you know. So yeah.
Well, that sounds good. Okay, so Megan, how do you charge? What's your structure like?
Yep. So we offer 3 different packages. Well, actually, we're going to be adding a 4th because there are so many couples now that are very interested in eloping. So we're kind of evolving our business to adjust to this brave new world we're in. But ultimately, ours, we structure kind of based on hourly. It doesn't necessarily matter so much on the number of people that are there. But we do offer a couple of different packages that offer a couple of different options. So some of our clients are really interested in just the digital prints and kind of interested in more of an introductory way to have access to our art. And then we offer a couple of different packages that also include albums and engagement shoots, and kind of goes up from there. And really all depends on what the clients are looking for and the couples are looking for. And that's why we love doing consultations to really customize it to what they need for their event.
Great, great. And what about you, Matt? Hold on.
Oh, microphone.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
Okay, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. We actually charge about the same way as Megan does, whether it's going to be a full day. We do also charge hourly, given the whole elopement thing going on right now. Whether they have an 8x8 album, 10x10 album, 12x12, whether they want to have any other additional add-ons. So, you know, those are all things that we provide at the time when we have the consult, just so that way we can get an idea of what the, you know, of what the couple actually wants that day.
Okay, that sounds good. And since you're started, Matt, let's go to our last question about what advice would you give a couple when they're choosing a photographer? Choosing an important decision. So how did they do it?
find somebody who really fits your style, because there's a lot of photographers out there. And, you know, I mean, I know that I've only been doing this for about 5 years, but I have met many photographers, including Megan, Guillermo, many others that, you know, everybody has their own style, and there's plenty of work for us to, you know, to go around. And so I really think that if we can guide people to a photographer that really fits their style the best, it's going to represent their wedding day in the best way that they want to be seen. So, you know, I mean, we're the vendors that are going to be with the couple that entire day. And so having somebody that really gets you as a person, gets your style, gets your personality, I think that's probably the best thing that we can do as a service to the couple, is make sure that we can make sure that they see themselves the way that they want to be seen that day.
Yeah. Okay. And Guillermo, what about you?
I think that I agree with Matt. Find someone that that they sync with. You know, the last thing you want to do is have a photographer that walks into your hotel room and you don't like them, and now you're stuck with them for the whole day. But you know, just make sure that they hire a photographer that still believes that we work for them, not that we are so important and so, you know, so amazing that, oh my God, I saved the day, I'm the photographer, here I am, don't worry about anything. We work for them. So flexibility, and if they have ideas, or if they want to, you know, somebody that helps them settle down and helps them calm down and kind of becomes their you know, their wingman for the day, you know, and they feel comfortable with. And at the end of it, when they look at those pictures on the wall 5 years down the road, it's not only a great picture hanging on the wall, but it's also that experience they had with the photographer reminds them of, you know, wow, I remember that picture, it was great, I love it. That photographer, remember that photographer was awesome. That's what needs to happen, instead of the contrary, where they see the picture and it's great and they go, but God, we hated that photography. So, yeah.
Okay, sounds good to Megan. Because isn't it true sometimes you can sign up with a studio and never see the photographer until they show up at the wedding?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Megan, what advice would you give everybody too?
Yeah, I mean, I think both Guillermo and Matt have said it beautifully, that it's matchmaking. Right? It's finding the photographer that's going to be able to deliver images that speak to you, that are meaningful. But the experience is just as important as the photos. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, yes, you can get beautiful photos from a lot of different photographers, but if your experience on the day with them, like Guillermo said, if you look at a photo and you're like, oh, why did we hire that person? That clouds your whole wedding experience. So we want, you know, when you're meeting with photographers and you're asking the kinds of questions that every couple should ask about your experience and your qualifications and your pricing, and you know, how you go about your day, and you know, your why you're in business working with weddings in the first place. All those things are very important. But while you're doing that, you should be getting to know the personality of the people that are going to be following you around, being your paparazzi for the whole day. You do want to make sure that you're on that same wavelength, and that you believe in them to create the art that you want, and that they believe in you to be able to, you know, so that you feel comfortable knowing that your photographer is going to make you look like your best self. Those are, I mean, I'm just kind of building off of what the other two said, but I think those are the things that are important to us as photographers, that we want our couples to think about when they're meeting with photographers, that it's about more than just pretty pictures. The experience is something that, you know, that's what a wedding day is. It's how you feel on this magnificent day. That's why you surround yourself with your favorite family and friends, and beautiful flowers and delicious food. And, you know, you spend so much time planning this. You want to be able to enjoy your day. And it's very easy for the wrong vendor to wreck that day for you.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, let's do some final thoughts. And actually, you're going to get extra points if you tell us the worst thing you've seen happen at a wedding. No names. We just want to see the scoop. Megan, why don't you start?
I might have to take a drink first.
Okay. Hey, it's happy hour. Go for it.
Um, the worst thing that I think I've ever seen at a wedding.
Just saying you've seen it all. So go ahead and
I was
just.
going to say we've seen quite a few things, but over the years, I think it's all relative. I think it's all relative as what the worst thing is. And if we've done our job right, the bride and groom, or groom and groom, bride and bride, they don't necessarily know what the worst thing is, because it's our job to make sure that they're not experiencing the worst thing. So it might be something that's happening in the background. Like we've seen a groomsman get his tooth knocked out on the dance floor, and the bride was very A-type. Like everything had to be perfect, and it was our job, as well as the bridal party's job, to make sure that she didn't know what was happening, because she was going to be real stressed out about it, even though everyone thought it was hilarious and it made for great photos later. And she didn't know until she got her album that it even happened. And then by then, she just laughed her butt off, and it was like the best experience ever. But it was definitely some high stress stuff. And, occasionally we will see things with family members. We've had a bridesmaid decide that she's just not going to participate all day until 5 minutes before the wedding. And then trying to assist the bride and the other girls to, really just get them, in the moment, and not let that be a detraction from the day. There's all kinds of crazy things that we see at weddings, but maybe the tooth knocked out might have been the most extreme.
So any final thoughts for the people watching?
I guess my final thoughts would be, thanks so much for tuning in, and really hope that this wedding planning process can still be really fun. I know the world is very stressful right now, but the wedding professionals, especially in New Mexico, they are very passionate about your weddings. We want to be there for you. We want to assist you. There's so many of us that are out there that are, have extra time actually to even be good listeners. So whether or not you've hired us, if you have questions about other vendors, we're great to offer other referrals. I think that's one thing. If you find a great vendor that you love, whether they make cakes or their DJ or their venue, use your referrals. Use the people that have worked with other professionals. There's a reason that they're going to refer those out. And that's something that can really assist you in your wedding planning. And hang in there.
That's perfect. Okay, Guillermo, hit it.
There we go. Well, I in no small part, thanks to you, Stacy, I just shot my 1600th wedding here about 2 months ago. So I've seen a lot. But three things, most of them, people are always saying, oh, by that you deal with the Bridezillas. I've had out of all those weddings, I remember maybe one or two brides that were unreasonable or stressed out or all that, not even close, just a couple of, spurts, but nothing crazy. So most brides and weddings are awesome. Everybody's happy. But there was one where, and that one was just last year at Casas de Sueños, in the middle of the ceremony, in the middle of basically the vows, when the minister was ready to do that, the bride stepped to the side and took a swig of her drink. She was plastered already. And she stepped to the side, and whoop, everybody was like, oh my God. An hour later, it was impossible to photograph her at all. There was another one, a maid of honor, that during her speech, she thought it was appropriate to tell everybody how in love she was with the groom during her bridesmaid speech, maid of honor speech. And I've always loved him, and we used to sit at night and talk for hours, and then I introduced them, and they fell in love, but I still love, oh my God, went on and on. And then the last one was Grandma got a hold of the microphone, and Grandma was a Southern Baptist lady, and this bride was marrying a man from Nigeria, a Muslim. And Grandma got a hold of that microphone, and she went to town. How you didn't marry a Jesus-loving man, and oh my Lord, bad. So, those are, I guess, three that come to mind. But, and just general advice, like Matt said, there is a lot of photographers. There in Albuquerque, there's probably 350 photographers. Last I browsed through it. Out of those 350 photographers, there is probably 50 that are really good. 50 that are awesome. But out of those 50, there's about 20 that are professionals in everything they do. You know, maybe a few more. I'm just saying, hire a professional, somebody that has been doing it, that knows how to do it, that dresses correctly, that shows up on time, that returns your email, that, you know, keeps you, you know, if they can't do something they said by tomorrow morning, they tell you, I'm not going to do it tomorrow morning, I'm going to do it in 2 days. You know, follows up with you. Somebody that you don't have to wonder where they are, you know, especially at your wedding, somebody that moves around and is interested and shows like they are, you know, after 1,600 weddings, I could just, you know, kind of be complacent. I still get butterflies in my stomach when I go to a wedding. You know, have urgency, you know, somebody that has urgency and everything, that because it's a wedding, you know, I work for you. So that's it.
That sounds good. Thank you. Okay, Matt, what about some final thoughts and some final thoughts and some stories if you want to tell them?
Oh, so do I get to tell a story about a horrible wedding?
Yeah, you can. Everybody wants to hear it. You know, everybody wants to hear it.
That's probably not fair, but if I'm following Megan and Guillermo, there was there was a wedding that we had that everything was great. You know, the emails, the console, everything was completely amazing, and I ended up taking a lot of photos of Amy escorting this bride who had way too much to drink beforehand, and it pretty much went that way the whole wedding. And it's amazing the images that we were able to get out of that. And I don't think I've taken that many photos with that little yield, you know, to make it look, you know, because, you know, kind of make it look like, you know, how they want to remember their day. But I don't know if she remembered her day. So that was a real bummer. But I mean, I really, going back to what Guillermo said, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But just having somebody there who's a professional, who is able to do more than just show up and take pictures. You know, somebody who's able to, you know, kind of help you out on the fly. You know, like, for example, I carry a Leatherman with me everywhere I go, because every time you show up, there's this little strand that comes off of the bride's dress that you have to flip off. Or, you know, if it starts raining, like, I keep an umbrella in my bag. You know, we make sure that we respond to emails, that we, you know, get everything that the bride is saying, that we set up timeline, everything, you know. So it's really more than just showing up and, you know, just like doing photos. So somebody like Guillermo, who's done as many weddings as he has, and, you know, the same thing with, you know, with Megan and James, it's being a true professional is being somebody that can just be there for the bride on their day. So that way you can be as invisible as possible, because it's not about the photographer. You know, you look at a lot of photographs and you can tell that there's someone else in that photo, even if you can't see it. But being a true professional, I think, is making sure that you can capture the couple's day and making sure that you still aren't a part of it. So when Guillermo talked about the way you dress, you know, like for us, we dress in all black, so that way we make sure that we're as invisible as possible, because we don't want the focus to be about us. We want it to be about the couple entirely. So that's really about all I can say about, like, my final thoughts. You know, every wedding has their thing, but ultimately, if you communicate well with the couple, if you get to know them, you don't really get bridezillas, you know, unless it's just that one-off that happens to be 1 out of 50, 1 out of 100. You know, because if you get to know that couple, you know, you get to save the day, but you get to do it behind the curtain, you know, to where you don't make it all about you. And I think that that's really one of the best parts about, you know, having a good, successful wedding day, is just making sure that the couple's happy by the time you're gone, by the time you leave at the end of the day. If they're satisfied, all is good, right?
That's great. So basically, another takeaway here is don't drink until after the ceremony, right? for couples.
No. Don't drink until after the formals are done. When the reception starts, it's game on.
And one more thing too is, which is always a rule of thumb for anything you do, don't, or try not to hire anyone that focuses on someone else. Anybody that speaks ill of their competitors, or that, throws little stabs here and there at what others do. Just, those are character traits that will spill into your photography and into the way you behave with other people. Because if you do it with someone today on their first meeting, you'll continue to do it, and it becomes very uncomfortable. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for having this time with us. And we'll look forward to talking to y'all again. And if y'all have any questions for these guys, be sure to check them out online or give them a call, because I'm sure all of y'all will be anxious to talk to anybody, right?
Yep.
Right? Great. Great. So have a good weekend, and happy hour.